You're back with me on Global TV Talk Show. Our very special guest today is an old friend, Stephen Howard, and author of 22 books. And it's this latest one that has blasted off and has been recognized by the Nonfiction Authors Association.
Yep.
And most recently, Stephen Howard has received notice that he's made the list of, I'm reading this, 200 biggest voices in leadership today. Wow. Thanks
Yeah.
for being on Global TV.
I think maybe it's because of global TV I made the list. I'm not sure, Ed.
Now, this is a megaphone here, so be careful. So welcome. Hold up that front cover, please.
Happy to. There you go. See if I can
Okay.
square it up a little bit to the camera.
Yeah. There's a bit of a reflection,
Yeah.
but on the bottom is what looks like a mannequin. Um, is one side a woman, the other side a man, or?
No, they're both kind of indistinct, quite frankly. It could be two women, it could be two men, it could be one each. And the artist did a really good job, I think, because it doesn't look like any part of the world. It's not Asian or Latino or Caucasian or anything. It's just, hey, it's human beings, and that's what we're talking about here. We're leading human beings. So I think the artist did a really good job on the cover here.
So, at what stage of your development of Humany Leadership.com in the book, when did you shift from the word harmony to humany?
In honesty, it was one night on my balcony with the sun going down and a glass of wine. And in seriousness, I was thinking about humans first, and there's the concept of being a human leader, and then I turned that around and started thinking about, well, we lead human beings. And I thought, okay, that's good, humanity. Trying to lead to make sure as leaders we're thinking about more than just the bottom line. And this is during the pandemic. And the one thing I thought about was that people need more harmony in their life, both personally and professionally. And then somehow I just added those three words, humanity, and harmony, combined them together on a piece of paper and wrote down the word humany. And I thought, hey, I like that. That kind of has a ring to it. So,
So that pulls together in my mind, anyways, that this thing from, I don't know when, 20 years ago, work-life balance, and there's no such thing.
No.
That's always been harmonized. It's just when, what day, and what time.
I think it's starting to get harmonized. I remember one of my first jobs. I mean, if you had a toothache on Wednesday and you asked your boss, hey, I got to go to the dentist. I got this really bad toothache. It's killing me. And it was like, take some Excedrin and, doesn't your dentist work on Saturday? Why do you have to go today type thing? So then we start balancing. Okay, it's okay to go to the dentist. It's okay to go to family emergencies. It's, somebody dies in your family, you get a whole 3 days off for grieving. That's not harmony. That's a little bit trying to balance things. So now I think coming out of the pandemic, we realize as human beings that work is important. Work has a significant place in our lives, but for many of us, it may not be the primary thing that we're concerned about. And we've seen a lot of people resign and say, you know what? I don't need 90-minute commutes or 1 hour commutes twice a day. I can reduce my lifestyle a little bit. I don't need to go out eat 3 times a week in restaurants, maybe once a week. I can make less money. I can have a better life, though. Life doesn't have to revolve around the workplace.
Yeah. So let's talk about the issue of employee engagement, feedback, understanding, engagement, keeping in mind that so many people are still hybrid, working from like I am in front of my laptop right here, as opposed to being in the office, although that is becoming in vogue again in many companies, many areas, at least once a week of showing up. But how is that progressing? Is there a gap?
Hey, there's still a gap, I think. And as much as it's progressing, interestingly, some research showed that I think it was in December. No, sorry, in December, office occupancy got up to 50%, the highest it had been since the pre-pandemic. In January, it went back down to 47%. And I think part of that is we still had in the United States, 4 million people resign their jobs in December. So, we're still going through the throes of the Great Resignation. It's kind of like a roller coaster. You resign your job in December, you pick up a new job in January because there's still 11 million jobs available out there. And, again, if you can switch from not having to go in the office or having to go into the office and you don't want to, find another company that's more flexible in their thinking. And maybe it's 2 days a week, maybe it's once, maybe it's not at all. Again, these are lifestyle decisions that people are making on their behalf of themselves and their families.
So people like me, employees, I got to stop saying, as a broadcaster, I should never do that. So employees are learning how to do new things, and many of them want to be reskilled and upskilled. But apparently some company bosses or middle managers, I guess is what we're talking about, they don't have the bandwidth or they don't know what to do and just get the job done.
Yeah, focus on results. And I think that combined with the fact that, anytime we have economic downturns or concerns, the first two things that get cut by organizations are the advertising promotions budget and the training development budget. And of course, that happened during the pandemic. And I think a lot of people, particularly our younger workforce, said, you know what, I haven't been developed for the last 2 years. I haven't been challenged. I haven't grown. Why do I want to go back and continue working for this company? If I can find another opportunity with another organization that says they're going to grow me, they're going to challenge me, I'm going to learn, I'll go work for them. And I think that we talk about loyalty is dead by employees. Loyalty's been dead by organizations as well. I mean, when we see companies like Disney report billions and billions and billions of dollars in profits, and then the next day lay off 7,000 people. Well, that's 7,000 families are going to be affected. The Disney showed no loyalty to those 7,000. Microsoft held this concert by Sting at Davos in January for reportedly only 50 people. Obviously, Sting got paid a significant amount of money, and then the next day laid off 10,000 people. So if organizations are going to think like that and just think about what the bottom line is, again, what Wall Street, what the shareholders are going to react, you can't expect your employees to be loyal to that kind of thinking.
Jeez.
Sorry.
Okay, what do I say next here? Wait. So describe your book. Is there one chapter in particular that resonates more today on February 14, Valentine's Day, than it did at Christmas time?
Yeah, I forgot to wish you happy Valentine's Day, Ed.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the
And
third.
to you.
Yeah, I think the third chapter, which kind of summarizes human leadership, the thinking. One of the key parts of that chapter talks about there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect between leaders and managers of what they think they should be doing, and which is the old way, and what people need, their employees, their team members, their human beings need to feel good and to be successful in the workplace. And I think that chapter is resonating with a lot of people because it boils down to just four things. It's people want to be respected and trusted. They want to be accepted for who they authentically are. They want to be included in discussions and decisions, particularly decisions on how to implement something. Not, they don't expect to be involved in their strategic decisions about new product or, we're going to buy this company or sell this company, but how we're going to execute. They want to be involved in those, particularly if they're involved in the execution, the implementation. And then as what we just referenced, I think most importantly, they want responsibilities and assignments that lead to personal and professional growth. Well, this essentially boils down to treating them as human beings. and ensuring that they feel that they belong on your team, your department, your organization, your company. And people need to feel good to be successful. And to me, those are 4 cornerstone aspects of making sure that people feel good and that they will be productive. And as a result, they'll be more productive, more innovative, more creative, and more loyal to your organization.
Here I am doing again. I'm sorry. So this was your book of a couple of years ago, and I happen to love the artwork and the name and stuff that's in here, and there you were when you were a long time ago. But here we are on page 92. I just happened to open this thing, and the subheadline is Stress Relief for Leaders, and on the opposite page, Reducing Work-Related Stress. So this was in a book that was published a few years ago. And now you're talking about humany, a new word that you created, bringing together harmony and people-centric. What's the difference between, on this page, stress relief for leaders, and then reducing work-related stress for, I guess, everybody? But your books are focused on leadership. So your subhead is how to go from mindful to mindful leadership.
Right.
How does that relate to humany?
The humany builds on it, Ed, in many ways. Because as we talked earlier about combining those 3 words, human, humanity, and harmony. One of the things I want to emphasize is, 2 things in creating the word humany is that we lead human beings, we lead people. We don't manage, we lead people. And secondly, leaders need to create workplaces of well-being and harmony. And so to me, if you have a workplace that has harmony in it, you're going to have a workplace that has elements of wellness to it, which will reduce conflict, which will reduce drama, which will reduce stress. And workplace stress is the #1 stressor in most people's lives. And stress is probably the #1 health factor or negative health factor in most people's health, because it impacts your brain health, it impacts your heart health, it impacts your blood pressure and everything else. So yeah, it's building upon that.
Thank you. So we have lost contact with your image.
Sorry.
Oh, okay, there you are. But actually it was a really cute trick that I thought you were playing here. You just wanted to disappear and have your voice be so meaningful, because we're talking about mindful, and now I thought, well, this has got to be meaningful for some reason to have lost you.
Better that people hear me than see me, I think. So it's okay.
It's a very powerful concept here. Yeah. So going back in time when you did this book and that preparation, this was a big seller. Look at all these pages. It's amazing that you wrote all these words. But and now you get to leadership, humanyleadership.com. This is like cool. But how did you grow? I'm actually thinking about becoming an author, but it's scary when I look at this. And then how did you do all that? And so you have a chapter in this thing on pessimism, and then you have a chapter here on battling distractions, mindfulness for leaders. Is there such a thing as mindfulness for me?
Well, there's mindfulness for everybody. And one of the, one part of that book is there's a chapter at the beginning that talks about the myths of mindfulness. And, for instance, mindfulness has nothing to do with meditation. Mindfulness, you don't have to go into a lotus position. You don't have to go into a 16-day silent retreat to get mindfulness. You can be mindful throughout the day.
Or self-denial or something.
Yeah. And the basis of that book, which led into the humany thinking, was in that book, I talk about don't get emotionally hijacked, particularly in your decision making. So that's where I talk about being mindful, like your mind just all over the place and you're multitasking and whatever, to mindful. to being able to pause, ask questions, make more rational decisions. Because when your mind's full, too many things go on, the back part of our brain, the amygdala, takes over, which is the emotional control center. And we've all said at one time in our lives, I was so angry I couldn't think straight. Well, that is actually literally physically true. When the amygdala takes over and you are emotionally hijacked, you can't think straight because your thinking is in the front part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. The amygdala has hijacked the brain, taken over, and now you're making emotional decisions. And so the first decision, as I say in that book, is to get yourself under control, get your emotions under control, and become more rational in your decision-making process. And that becomes a mindful leader. Well, the same concept now applies to humanity. As you're becoming mindful, don't react, respond to the needs of your people, realize how, think about how do you put people first? How do you be people-centric in your decision-making processes, and how do you make sure that the workplaces that you're involved in are not toxic, that they're more harmonized, that there's less drama, that there's less conflict, that people will willingly, as I say in the book, they will cooperatively collaborate because they want to, instead of being forced to collaborate, which then you get friction.
So is this a Zen thing? I don't really know what I'm talking about, but the idea of being at peace and, creating a peaceful zone around your head in spite of all the BS and the challenges coming at you.
Yeah, Zen probably, I lived in Asia for 21 years, so my limited knowledge and exposure of Zen would be Zen's probably 150 times more peaceful, more present, but it's taking some of the basic elements of Zen, like becoming mindful, breathing exercises, which is also part of Zen, of deep breaths and getting yourself, if you do deep breathing for 60 seconds, your body will physiologically will calm down. It has to. It's the way the body reacts to that. And that's, again, how you go from being emotionally hijacked to being more present, more rational. So in the book you just referenced there, I actually show some breathing exercises that people can do in the office place, and you can do it at any point. You don't have to go in a quiet room and turn the lights off and shut the blinds down. You can do deep breathing exercises in a meeting room while other people are talking. You just listen to them and breathe in and hold your breath and breathe out deeply and hold your exhale, and then just repeat that. No one's going to know what you're doing because no one's paying attention to you.
They're not watching.
No, they're not watching how you're breathing. unless you go, and then everyone's going to look at you, but you don't have to exaggerate the breathing. I do deep breathing exercises when I'm in line to board an airplane, because flying is no fun anymore. So I will sit there, or stand there, I should say, and I'll look out at the tarmac and watch the people with their, flags and flashlights or whatever directing the planes. And I'll just watch the plane. I'll just breathe in and watch them and hold my breath and breathe out and hold the exhale, and I just watching the planes, and nobody's paying any attention to me. And that calms me down before I get on a plane, because boarding an aircraft, like I said, is no fun anymore.
So in the news, I just want to relate what's going on out there and what happens, not just within here, but in the workplace, and whether the workplace is here in front of my screen or in the downtown high-rise office building. Shootings. This impacts everybody. Yeah. And you want to put it out of your mind, but you can't, because this is just craziness. And this is just insanity. Here I am doing again, but the acts of violence are, I have to think, planned by something, and I don't know what, but back during Iraq War time, we can think back 20 years, the whatever they were called, the terrorists, I forget, they would send suicide bombers into crowds and just blow people up,
Right.
just to create distraction, to create a mess, and to create anxiety for the next time or something else coming down the track by somebody thinking about all of this. I'm not asking you for your opinion. Is this being planned somehow to destabilize America and the vast middle class, the midsection in particular? But it seems like it's going to impact the workplace and people's productivity. And this mindful talk and this humane approach that's being recognized by groups, and congratulations to you on that.
Yeah, thank you.
How can you recommend, this is off the wall and we didn't plan this, but how can you recommend people, employees and leaders who are also employees of somebody to be more at peace and take more control during the stressful times?
That's great insights, Ed. I mean, there's probably two elements of that. By creating a more harmonized workplace, people, and also understanding that people have responsibilities outside work, not just a life, as we used to say. Yeah, we know we have a life, and that's where that work-life balance came in. People have responsibilities, and if we will trust our employees, that give them the flexibility, working hours, whatever it takes, so that they can do those outside responsibilities, with caring for aged parents, children, maybe they coach, children's sporting teams, whatever they might be doing in their society, in their communities. Then they don't bring that anxiety into the workplace. Like, oh my gosh, I got to make sure mom takes her pills today, or I got to make sure I got somebody to arrange for somebody to pick up the kids today, or all this angst that we have in our personal lives doesn't need to be brought into the workplace. And whether the workplace is the physical environment, the offices, the factories, the laboratories, or whether that's working at home as they're trying to balance everything. The other part of this would be by creating, and in the book, I talk very much about employee engagement, about creating a cooperative collaboration, about having psychological safety within your team so that people are willing to bring up their ideas and won't get shot down. I mean, how many times have I been in meetings where somebody said, oh, we did that 5 years ago, that won't work now, and that person never contributes anymore. So a long answer to your question here, but by creating more harmonized workplaces, we will create more humanized people. The other aspect of this, humanity is not just for the workplace. The aspects of human leadership. If you're running the school council in your community, if you're running the Rotary Club, if you're running something at your church or religious, whatever your religion happens to be, and you're involved in your community, if you're coaching a sports team, you take the principles of human leadership and you'll be a better human being, and therefore you're going to create better communities, better sports teams. And again, this is not just for the CEOs. If you're just a department head in the workplace, you have a team of 8 people reporting to you, you apply this to those 8 people, at least that part of the organization will be more harmonized than the rest of the company. And you're going to be recognized as a leader, somebody who gets results. And that's good for your own career. So there's a lot of personal benefits from taking this. It's a mindset change, Ed. The human leadership concept is really a mindset change about how you want to lead other people, and also how you want to lead yourself, both professionally and in your personal lives.
In one of the chapters in your book, and I don't have that in front of me now, but there's some kind of an exercise that the Nonfiction Authors Association pointedly recognize you for as being very, very helpful.
Yeah, it was an exercise, and it was a way of looking at your organization, and it was really a chart that talked about the pre-pandemic type organization or the non-human-y type organization, and comparing that to what you can create in a humany leadership. So it's one of the benefits of creating a humany culture. I'm actually trying to flick through it now. It's yeah, here we go. So for instance, the pre-pandemic normal, you work set hours, 9 to 5.
Well,
You focus only on accomplishing your workplace tasks during your workplace hours, and you perform your work in the designated employee's workplace. In the harmony culture, you work anytime as personally suited, but you have responsibilities to achieve your goals. You focus on accomplishing tasks and adding value, and you work anywhere as personally suited. So that was what they were pointing out was the and and what we just talked about in terms of the workplace culture. The pre-pandemic normal and still for many companies is very much a blame and shame culture. You make a mistake, or I'm not taking responsibility. That's you. You did that. I'm going to, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to shame you in public for making that. I'm going to shame you for your idea. A harmony culture is psychologically safe. Mistakes will happen, but that provides opportunity for learning. Now, that's just a mindset change. People are still going to make mistakes. You can either have a mindset they're going to blame them for their mistakes and you're going to publicly shame them for making mistakes, or you're going to say your mindset is, okay, mistakes happen. What can we learn from this? How do we not repeat that mistake within our own department, for instance? And how do we make sure it doesn't get replicated in other parts of the organization? So we're going to share, we're going to tell people, we made a mistake. We did this. This is what we learned. Everybody else, don't make the same mistake. You don't have to learn it. We've already learned the lesson. That's the humany culture. So it's a mindset.
excellent. Thank you very much. So about the gap, if we can go back to that for a minute. You mentioned 4 things. You're interested in 4 things employees need to feel good and be productive and loyal.
Yeah.
Can you get into that as we come to a close here?
Sure. It's that people want to be respected and trusted. And I've said this before with you. I mean, the old style leader comes in and says, I'm your new leader. Here's how you can earn my trust. Now that doesn't work today. New leaders should come in and say, hey, I'm glad to be your leader. Really happy to be working with each one of you. And here's how you lose my trust. I trust you. Here's the way you lose it. You can lose it by lying to me, hiding, trying to sweep problems under the carpet, not admitting your mistakes, blaming others. You're going to lose my trust. But I trust you. People want to be accepted for who they authentically are. People don't want to have to hide themselves, leave their personas in the car when they go back to the offices of the factories, the laboratories, and pretend that they're somebody else. As I said, they want to be included in discussions and decisions, particularly about how to implement things. They want their ideas to be heard. Now, you don't have to accept all their ideas, but at least as a leader, you listen to their ideas. And if you don't accept it, maybe tell them why. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, people want responsibilities and assignments that lead to both personal growth and professional growth. So they want to learn new things. They don't want to just do the same repetitive tasks year after year, get that 5% raise once a year, which today doesn't even cover inflation. And after 15 years, get an extra week of paid vacation. That's not going to cut it in today's world. People are not going to accept that. So, and the last thing people want, and we probably don't have time to talk about it today, but I'd love to talk about it on the future show, is what I call clear line of value. People want to know what value they are providing to the team, to the organization, to the customers. And so it's what I call having a clear line of value. People want to know that their contributions are meaningful.
With that in mind, how should a leader talk with a report? We'll call that a follower, then, not a report, to understand how their work is impacting customers.
That's because,
and then how can you as a leader help that follower do better by getting them to want to do better, and by therefore understanding customer being central, what is the customer's experience with the product service? And then maybe the customer doesn't like part of the product or service, but you don't know that. And so by correcting that, you're going to help right?
Yeah, you're going to create better product. And this applies, I think, whether you have internal customers or external customers. I know your question focuses on the external customer, the end user of a product or service. But sometimes a lot of people in an organization, they don't understand how what they do touches the customer, but they understand how it might, for instance, impact the internal customers. So, for instance, just a real simple thing, somebody who has to report overtime hours every week to payroll to make sure that the employees get paid properly based on their overtime. That's the manager's responsibility. That's an internal customer thing. I think it boils down to two questions, Ed, to respond to the first part of your question there about how do you get people to understand really the value that they're contributing and motivate them, and understand that intrinsic motivation is more important than extrinsic motivation. So intrinsic is what we feel inside, how we motivate ourselves. So the two questions I ask people I coach on these things are things like, I ask them, where did you contribute a lot of value last week? And what value did you contribute to a particular project? Now, their responses might be in line with my responses. If I'm their leader, they might not be, which is fine. It's good to get on the same page. If my responses are different, say they're the same, then I just reconfirm. Yeah, you added a great deal of value there in that. So for instance, if I was giving you feedback, I'd say, well, Ed, your questions and relating it to what's happening today was very valuable. You added value to our conversation. If not, then you tell the person, okay, here's my observations. I think sometimes as leaders, we may actually see their value more than they do because they don't have the same visibility we do as leaders in the organization. So they may not understand. So for instance, my little payroll thing, if somebody got the information to payroll in time about all the employees overtime for the week, the value to that is the rest of our team's going to be really happy because they don't have questions about when that once a month or twice a month deposit goes in the bank account. They understand, hey, thank you, I got paid. I got, I did 8 hours overtime. I got my salary plus the 8 hours of overtime. And so that person may only understand that they did their job. They ticked off the list. They got it done on time. But the value that they created was the satisfaction of their team members who are happier with the company because they're getting paid on time, accurately and on time each time. That's the value that person brings to that little exercise of just reporting overtime hours to payroll.
And the opposite will be true.
Absolutely.
If it wasn't, boy,
yeah, if they don't
bad feelings, ill will.
If they don't do it accurately, they misreport it. Somebody has to now go to payroll or complain to the boss. I work 8 hours. I only got 6 hours, and now I got to look at timesheets, and it's going to cost the company more. Also, by the way, if you have to go through and rectify when someone's payment wasn't correct, all the time spent to get it done right and get it into the next. Plus, as you said, the angst, the upset, and this is where thinking about people comes so important. It's not just that the people didn't get a couple of hours of overtime pay, but maybe if they're living from paycheck to paycheck, that meant they couldn't buy a birthday present for somebody. That might mean today's Valentine's Day. Maybe they couldn't afford Valentine's present, or they couldn't afford to go out to dinner this week, or what. We're impacting people's lives without understanding it. That's humaning.
Hold up that book cover one more time.
It's powerful stuff, Ed. It really is when people stop to think about this and how it impacts people's lives. It is extremely about, and not only that, but suppose the angst, you go home and or you have to tell your spouse, we no wine this week when we go grocery shopping. My payroll got screwed up, and then it's going to be those idiots in payroll screwed up my salary, they blah blah blah, and there's going to be all this negativity, and now your spouse, partner, significant other, whatever, is now also going to get anxious, and oh my God, does that mean we can't do this or we can't do that? I was going to buy flowers or so on. It's all these things that cascades because we don't understand how we add value in the jobs that we do at work.
Stephen Howard, your book won a gold medal, and congratulations.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. That
Yeah.
great conversation. I always enjoy talking with you, Ed.
Humanyleadership.com. Have a good one.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.